What's going on, fam? It's your boy KP back with another video. All praise and credit to the Most High God and for sending His Son and the Spirit to tell us the truth. King Jesus, He's simply the greatest one to ever do it. The greatest prophet to ever walk this earth. Let's see, usual stuff. If you're new to the channel, which I doubt you are because YouTube has me shadow banned, go ahead and take a look around the channel. There's probably some video titles that are gonna connect with you, and if you like the content, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bells, and sharing any of these videos on any of your platforms. As usual, if you feel compelled by the message to leave a donation, the links will be in the first pinned comment. Let's see, this is going to be, it's a continuation. Well, every message from the Most High God is a continuation. They're all a continuation of the truth. And this is going to be no different. But the title of this video is going to be Illuminati Storytime. Don't let the fables put you to sleep. All right, Kim, what do you mean Illuminati story time? Don't let them put me to sleep. I mean exactly what I say. You know, in this world, in Satan's world, there's been a matrix. And there's gonna be the same two scriptures from the message yesterday that apply to this message. You know, once you know the whole story of the Word of God and you're able to see the truth, you see how everything is connected and how everything relates to another. But, you know, that old serpent called the devil, the one that was cast down, the one that deceived the entire world, him and his angels. That scripture in Revelation, and also the other one about have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them, meaning expose them. So, you know, everything that Satan, the systems, the stories, the net, it's about creating a barrier between you and God to where you're locked into one type of perception. And it's a perception of the flesh. And if you want to think about that in psychological terms, you can liken it to a separation of the conscious and the subconscious. You know, the spirit of truth and what men call logic. The best way to think about it is your flesh mind will feed your conscious through your senses, like your eyes, your ears, your taste, your smell, touch, and feel. Those would feed your conscious mind. That's why if you're unconscious, you can be unconscious, and none of those stimuli will affect your conscious mind because you're unconscious, right? So there's a conscious mind which is of the flesh. That's why when they give you sedative medicine in the hospital, you go unconscious. They can open up your eyeballs. You know, sometimes if you're unconscious, your pupils won't dilate. You're not you don't feel pain, so your touch and feel is paralyzed. You can't hear things. You won't wake up if there's an alarm because you have been rendered unconscious. But that is a fleshly thing. But your subconscious is on a different level of awareness. That's why people can be unconscious but have near-death experiences before they remember, when they remember all things. So you have to realize that there's two levels of consciousness. You at least have to come to that type of understanding that, oh, okay, Ken, that makes sense. You know, while I can be unconscious, I can still have memories and still have interactions, and those are coming from the subconscious. So that's one way you can explain the physical and the spiritual. The physical being consciousness, the spiritual being subconsciousness, right? It's deeper than the just consciousness. So One way Satan begins to program the subconscious is through physical stimuli. That is why everything on this earth needs to be understood logically. That is why Satan uses your ears and your eyes mainly, but also uses your flesh to entice you. But the main thing to capture the mind is the ears and eyes of understanding. And these are always coming from the outside in. And they go through your understanding to affect your soul, which will power the way you see reality. The connection to the Most High God comes the other way. It comes like through your subconscious to your spirit to your soul, and powers your reality to the way you perceive physical things is filtered through a different lens. I hope you're following along with me. I know I said a lot. If you're able to understand the types of things that I'm saying, you realize that you have a deeper understanding than the parable I've just used to separate the physical and the spiritual, so you can have an understanding how this whole Illuminati storytime magic actually works on people. I guess there's some siren Illuminati magic going on over there, try to get your attention. Well, what's going on over there? All right, it stopped. So this I'm going to talk about one specific Illuminati story time that we've all been told. And this goes back to what, the 1910s or 20s, the Great Depression. And you hear about this as growing up through your life. I remember hearing about the Great Depression as a kid. You read about it in history books. There's always some show on the tail lies to your vision that reinforce the idea of the Great Depression and what happened to the nation during that time period, how it affected people, how people suffered because of the Great Depression. And the main gist of the Illuminati story is there was a Great Depression in the United States, and the economies crashed and the stock market crashed, and people didn't have money for food, so they were starving, and it was a real tough time in American history of economic downturn. And then they come with the Illuminati props, and they show you people in the food lines begging for bread. They show you people begging for a bowl of soup or broth. They show you skinny people that look like they haven't eaten in months, and they're all malnutrition. And then they perpetuate this belief through your physical senses, through your eyes and your ears. They keep reinforcing the idea that sustenance of the physical body, the system that governs it, is tied to man-made economic systems such as the stock market. Please, I hope you're following along with this, because this is the type of revelations I received when I was freed from the matrix and risen above it to where I'm able to look down on the matrix and be like, oh man, that's how you keep society enslaved, through instilling certain beliefs and having people perceive events through a man-made created reality that is false and not the way things really are in the world. So back to that Great Depression, they want you to believe that that's the way it works. So there's a man-made matrix economy of things, and then there is a God-made, higher form-made economy of things. So the gist of the story, again, and I like to reinforce things to try to get people's understanding. So the matrix, the physical mind, the false reality would want you to believe that economic systems, governmental systems, or what they call business systems. I know there's only one government, the satanic government. They want you to believe that these affect food supplies and the abilities of others to gather system from the food supply. All right, so that's one way to look at it, the satanic false economy. So look at God's economy in food. Look at how food is produced. All right, you have birds and bees that carry pollen and cross-pollinate things, and then you have soil, which plants get planted in, and they grow, and you have rain, which provides the necessary avenue for the plants to extract nutrients out of the soil, and then you have sunlight, which is providing the growth. So in order for like that plant kingdom, you need birds and bees cross-pollinating. You need soil, which is the earth. That's here, right? There's never been a soil shortage that I know of, but like I never doubt Satan. If he started putting on the news tomorrow that there was a soil shortage, I would see some of you fools at Home Depot, stocking up on dirt because it's running out like you did toilet paper. Because I'm convinced people will believe anything. But I digress. Back to the story. So you have soil, and then what else is needed? The birds and the bees are going to do their thing, but you need rain and you need sunlight, right? And this chain goes on. Stuff grows. You have grass that'll grow from what I just stated. Goats, cows, animals that eat the grass. They'll grow up. They'll have babies. The babies will eat the grass. They'll grow up. You have chickens that come along. You have these bugs that live in the soil, worms and little pests. The chickens will eat those. The same thing with fruit trees. You have the seed in the ground, the rain, the sunlight. If you leave it alone, in a couple years, you have fruits on the trees. And that's pretty much, same thing with nuts and grains, wheat and things like that. Everything will continue to occur in God's economy. And it's like foolproof. So if you think about what I described, it's real basic in God's economy. Birds and bees cross-pollinate. You got soil, you got water, and you got sunlight. So for there to be a crash in the food source that sustains life on earth, it would have to be a crash or a travesty created by the Most High God. He would have to stop rain, or he would have to stop sunlight, or like take away the earth, take away the dirt, in order to cause like a crash, right? So here's where Satan comes in. Satan has created all these layers in the matrix, which is like taking farms away from the average person, taking livestock away from the person. And the way they do that, the way the satanic matrix puts a layer between, it's like, for instance, they call it zoning. In this zone, you're not allowed to have chickens or livestock, or you can't have, a fruit tree and this, that, and the other. So he's taken away the responsibility of the citizens. Therefore, they have to participate in the satanic matrix if they want to eat, because Satan owns the system of all the food, right? But when you think about the story, the Illuminati story that was told, the stock market crashed, therefore people don't have money, which is what people call money isn't real neither. That's a whole nother satanic matrix, and I might extend this series called Illuminati Storytime and go through all the kingdoms of the world. And right now I'm just talking about the food kingdom and how Satan has deceived people. So Satan reinforces that idea of the Great Depression, of the stock market crash. People don't have money, so they can't eat, and they're starving to death. So when you look at how the birds and the bees cross-pollinate things, if you look how the cows of the field and the beasts of the field just eat grass, if you look how the fish in the ocean just go around, they're either eating algae, other crustaceans, they're eating smaller fish, and the bigger fish eat the smaller fish, and and they just roam around the ocean and then continue to breed and they continue to multiply. And if you look at the fruit trees, it goes winter, spring, summer, fall, and the cycle continues to go round and around in a circle. And you go through a period where the tree bears fruit, and then it goes into a dormant period. It comes back to life in the springtime, and then the fruits begin to bud, and next thing you know, they're ripe and they produce food again. So that cycle that God created continues. And I'm saying it again to hopefully you can understand. It sounds really basic. But some of you guys are going to fight it. Or 2 days or a week or a month after hearing this message, you go back to the own thinking of the Great Depression, and people are going to starve to death if the stock market crashes, right? So knowing how God has created a perfect system that only he is in control of, and he can really stop. And if he wants to cause a famine, he's going to stop the rain or stop the sunlight, or cause plants to not grow, right? Which is the beginning. And the funny thing, man, is if you look back through Genesis, like the plants and stuff was the first thing that was created. Like you need that to sustain other life, because animals are going to eat them, and if people eat animals and so on. But if you look at how things were created in the book of Genesis, like you need those plants first. That's the first thing you need, because everything else is dependent upon that. But I digress again. So, the Illuminati has people believing the stock market can affect this system. But I ask you, if you ask the birds and the bees, if you ask the cows or the chickens, if you ask the fish in the sea, how does the stock market affect them eating? They wouldn't know what you're talking about. Once, they don't have the consciousness, but two, it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect the apple tree to produce fruit. It doesn't affect the cow to produce babies and to produce milk. It doesn't affect those type of things. So you have to be able to come to reason. You have to be open-minded. You have to pray to the Most High that he opens the door of your subconscious and allows some truth to seek in to change the way you see things. So, if the stock market affects none of those things, it doesn't affect the sunlight, it doesn't affect the soil, it doesn't affect the rain, and it doesn't affect how God created things, from the plants, the trees, the animals that eat the plants and the trees, the animals that eat the other animals, and so on through the entire food chain. If the stock market doesn't affect those things, then how would the stock market affect anybody eating on Earth? Or there being a shortage of food? How would that be possible? So when you reinforce that type of truth, like there's probably one person that's going to watch this and be like, Ken, you're right. Like the stock market crash, and how does that affect the apple tree from producing apples? How does that affect the grass from growing? From now the cow can't eat, so now there's less cows, now people can't eat. Like, how does that happen? That's how Illuminati Storytime is instilled in people from birth, to get them in a fake reality to where they go along with the satanic matrix and they believe that's how life really works. Things do not work the way you've been told. And they'll say things back to the Great Depression, because another one is coming. They're going to run this same Illuminati playbook on the earth, and the people that are blind are going to fall for it every time, just like they fell for it 100 years ago. They're going to run this same Illuminati Storytime playbook like they're running football plays. Let's run this one. It'll work on them. They believe everything. So they'll say things like the stock market crashed and people didn't have money for food. The stock market crashed, the economy's bad, and people didn't have jobs. Okay, what does that got to do with people starving? If people don't have jobs, the only way you're going to get me to believe that there's not food for people to eat is if there was a drought or no sunlight, and then I'll know it's from the Most High God, that He is causing it, not letting it happen to the people that are blind and have turned their back on Him. Therefore, they're only seeking refuge in the satanic system, and they're not turning to the Most High God for truth and seeking His face. Therefore, He doesn't bless them and make them set apart and independent from the satanic system, to where whatever they need is multiplied and they have more than enough. So again, back to the Great Depression. Was there a drought? Did the sun stop moving? Was all the soil taken away? Did the apple trees not produce apples for 3 years? So they'll run back to people didn't have money, there was no jobs. Okay, fine. All the plants were producing food, right? Give people a job to just harvest fruit off the plants and then create a daisy chain across America that just passes the fruit all around the people. But I'm going over and over and like retelling this truth that I already know, the truth that allows me to do what I do, the truth that allows me to have peace of mind and travel the world and not take part in the satanic system as I used to live as a blind man. Okay, fine. The stock market crashed. Say it went to zero and there was no dollars in circulation. There was no dollars. How would that affect food and people not being able to eat? Let me give you another scenario. Let me put it in another, because I know there's somebody fighting it. Their subconscious mind, or their conscious mind is fighting with their subconscious mind that is hearing this, going, this can't be true. This can't be true. Let me give you an example. You got an acre of land. You got 1 acre of land. On that land, you got a garden that grows vegetables. We're going to keep it real basic. You grow the kind of vegetables, the kind that make a salad, right? You grow some lettuce, you grow some greens, a couple carrots, tomatoes, onions, a couple other stuff you like. Not a big salad. Not a big garden. A garden about the size of that pool. A garden like that. Grows all your green vegetables. Then you got like a few fruit trees. You got an apple tree, an orange tree, couple watermelon vines, some grapes. Again, about twice the size of that pool. Then you got like 20 chickens, right? You got like 20 chickens, and they're laying an egg every other day. So you just say they lay an egg twice a week. So you got 40 eggs a week, right? Say you got 2 cows, 2 or 3 cows. You got all the milk and all the cheese you want, more than enough for your family of 10. And once a year, once every 2 years, the cows have another cow, and you can slaughter a cow, and you have enough meat that lasts your family of 10 for a year. And also, those chickens, some weeks you don't need 40 eggs. So you let 10 of those eggs hatch, and then you have 10 more chickens. You see where I'm going with this? That it wouldn't take much of a farm to feed 10 people. So say you have that. Say you have that at your house, just that. Yeah, from where all things are made. Oh, also, you got some wheat. You got a little wheat field growing, and that's the kind of stuff that like lasts for a long shelf life. So now you can make bread and all kind of things, right? You got your whole setup. So in your little self-contained farm, tell me how a stock market would be able to affect your family eating. You know what I mean? The stock market crashed, the dollar crashed, it went to zero. There could be a world war where everybody's fighting, but the sun is still shining. God still has the sun shining, and He still has the rain raining. And your farm is going around and around in circles. The cucumbers keep growing, the lettuce keep growing, the tomatoes keep turning red, the chickens are keep laying eggs, the cows once a year are still having the babies, they're still producing milk. The stock market would have no effect on you or your family eating. Therefore, you would be independent. Well, for a couple things, you would see the truth of that system being fake, and then you would see you're not affected by it, because how does the stock market affect the plants growing, the fruit growing, or the cows having babies, or the chicken laying eggs? How does that happen? All right, Ken, I don't have a farm. I know there's some retard out there that just doesn't want to accept the truth of God. Therefore, they're gonna stay a slave in the matrix, and they're gonna participate in the saving, and they're gonna constantly hate at a person that the Most High God's Son, Jesus Christ, has freed. They're gonna constantly fight with this type of logic. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the person that wants to be free from the matrix and doesn't want to participate in that satanic system. All right, Ken, you're talking about an individual family of 10 having a farm. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you mean. Okay, well, if you can understand that the stock market wouldn't affect a farm and a family of 10, the country's one big farm. The country is just one big farm. It's just bigger. They just have a bigger garden, and they don't have 2 cows, they have millions. It's just a bigger farm. The food supply of a nation is just a bigger farm. And the only thing that can affect any farm, like God's truth is always true in every scenario. The only thing that could affect a big farm would be something happened to the dirt, something happened to the birds and the bees, something happened to the rain or the sun. Are you with me? That is the only thing that can affect people starving. Anything else is an Illuminati story that people believe that powers their reality, and that's how they get people in the system. So if you really think about this truth, it becomes it makes you angry on the inside, because you start to see what really happened. You're like, I'm gonna go research the Great Depression. If there was no drought and the sun didn't stop shining, that means all the food was still being produced on this earth. Like, what were they doing with it, or why were they letting people starve? Like, that's just cruel. And once you know how Illuminati Storytime works, you can be like, okay, Satan just wanted to be cruel and starve people out and give them a hard time. That's one way to look at it. Or they made a deal with another country, and another country wanted to expand their population and needed a bunch of food. And the United States is like, well, we'll sell you some of our food. Well, I see you have enough food in your country's farm to sustain your country's population. Like, where are you going to get the extra food from? And the United States, like, man, you don't worry about that. You give us cheap labor for free, and we'll get you the food. And then they're just thinking, man, we'll just starve people out. We'll just create an Illuminati story time if there's a Great Depression, the stock market crash, and we don't have food for some reason. And we'll just give it to another country. We'll trade it. We'll trade all the food we say the stock market caused, the lack of food. We'll just give it to another country. We'll trade it for some other type of resource that we want. And that's exactly how it works. And I hope somebody is able to understand it, because that's just like one kingdom, like the food kingdom, the kingdom of sustenance in the world, and the way it works under God's order, and the way Satan wants you to believe it works. That's just like one kingdom of the world. There's the kingdom of like entertainment, there's the religious kingdom, there's the education kingdom, there's the medical kingdom, there's the political kingdom. And I remember when the veil was raised on me, and when I say the veil was raised, the separation between my conscious mind and the way I was taught things through my physical senses to perceive the world, and that barrier between my conscious mind and my subconscious mind, that barrier was torn, and God was pouring into my subconscious mind, and it changed my whole reality of the way that I saw things. I saw the truth in all those kingdoms of the world I just described. So the same scenario I've just given you of how Illuminati Storytime gives people a false reality of the food kingdom, he does it with all the kingdoms. And I know the truth, and that's why Satan wants me dead. Because if a person begins to let these seeds of these truths that I've just explained start to resonate and grow in their heart to where they think about them, to they meditate on them, those seeds begin to germinate. The seeds that germinate begin to grow and take root. Those that grow and take root begin to sprout up, maintain strength, absorb nutrients from the ground, and sunlight. And they begin to grow, and one day they bear fruit. And coming to the understanding of the kingdom of God, some things are instant, but things begin to grow. It's a mindset that changes gradually. So, if you think about when Satan wants to destroy a person, sometimes he can just put them in an accident and they're dead, or put them in a bad environment and they get shot and then they're dead and Satan has destroyed them. But a lot of times it's more subtle than that. He'll give them a spirit of gluttony and they'll overeat themselves to death over 30 years. He'll give them a drug problem and the drugs will take them out. But then you'll see people say things like, man, this person had their life all together, but then they got hooked on crack. And after about a year or two, that crack took them down to nothing. You know, the reverse is always true. You know, the Most High God can change your position in an instant. A lot of times he has changed things for me in an instant, in a blink of an eye. But just like what I just spoke, sometimes the seeds of truth got to germinate in my heart. They gotta begin to take root. They gotta grow up and absorb nutrients. The Holy Spirit provides the water, right? The Son of the Most High God provides the sunlight that allows me those seeds of truth to grow in me. And then your mind gradually grows out of darkness into the light of this type of understanding. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because the satanic matrix has got people convinced that, oh, say these 3 words. You believe that Jesus is the Son of Lord, the Son of God. You believe that he died and rose again on the 3rd day. Okay, you're saved. You've been baptized. A lot of people believe it's that easy. But if you think about what I just said, and some things occur over time, it may take months, a year, you know. But just like a person that starts smoking methamphetamine, they could be on top of the world, you know, college graduate, professional in business. They start smoking meth. Their life ain't going to get destroyed most times in one weekend of partying. It's going to take a while. Even if it's something like crack, it's going to take months to take a person down from their strongest to put them in a weak position. So what I'm trying to tell you in short is, like, give God a chance. Give God some time in your life. Don't just say it's not working or I'm not understanding, so I'm going to go back to what I know, which is basically all the matrix. Give God some time. Give God the amount of time it would be required for you to get into shape, for you to change your diet, start exercising, and lose 100 pounds with dedication and seeking a better life and greater health. You'd be like, man, I got to lose 100 pounds, get in shape, change my diet. I need to give myself at least a year to lose 100 pounds. Like, even then, God's got to be with me, and it's going to take a miracle for me to sustain that, right? So when you're thinking about changing your mind and having God work on you and change the way you view the world, give it. And I remember the first time God spoke to me and how long it took my life to change. I remember having those same, I'm gonna give God a year. If God is, if you're real, show me. I'll give you a year of dedicating my life to you, but show me, right? And not that you should test God like that. I said that to God because I didn't think God was real. And I was at a point in life where I didn't want to live no more. So that's why I was saying it like that. God, if you're real, I'll give you a year. Like, change my life, because the way my life is going, I don't want to live it no more. I never forget the moment. It took like 4 months. And I remember where I was driving on the freeway and I broke down in tears when God said, "Hun, you gave me a year. You realize it's only been 4 months?" I never forget that moment. I was crying on the freeway. It was the 60 freeway in California in Pomona. I never forget. The song that came on the radio was a song that gave me inspiration in my most darkest times. The song popped on the radio after God had just blessed me, and then he reminded me of, remember what you prayed for, that you would give me a year. It's been 4 months, and I've given you everything. I've restored you and your life. And from that was early on. That was probably in the year 2014, I think, where I knew God was real. I didn't know the Son of God was real at this point. I knew God was real, and he had blessed me with the truth and able to see the truth. But I digress. I hope this message has blessed you. Please comment below. I love reading your comments. I love hearing what the messages made you reflect on, what they brought to light within you. So please make a comment below. I'd love to hear it. Also, the links to donate are in the first pinned comment, along with ways to contact me. I respond to all comments, so reach out. This world is, there's less of us than there ever have been since the beginning of time. That's all I'm saying. These demons are everywhere. So until next time, stay equipped in the full armor of God, covered with the blood, filled with the Spirit, the name of the Son, and the power of the true living God. This is still the end times. I'm KP, and I'm out. Peace.